Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined as always by Denny Carter. Monday, June 19th, the day after the U.S. Open, the day after Father's Day, which, Denny, I told you celebrate, even though curiously you only have 2 kids and don't have 4 like me. I don't think you're really trying that hard if you only have 2 kids. If you're like, no. Denny revels in being a dad. How was your Father's Day, Denny?
It was good. I am aware that you really shouldn't be celebrating Father's Day unless you have at least 3 children. So I get where you're.
Yeah, I'm actually only provisional with 4. It's actually supposed to be 6 before you're really allowed to start celebrating. I'm provisionally allowed to celebrate with 4 though.
So they can work your farm.
Yes, of course.
That's why we're having so many kids.
Want them to work the land.
It was good. So I actually spent part of my Father's Day announcing a dive meet at the local swimming pool that my kids participated in. It was a fun time, and someone had heard that I do podcasts, and they said, "Hey, that guy has a voice," and I said, "I do have a voice. I can use it to announce kids' names." So that was fun. I did happen to notice though something in the New York Times. I don't know if you saw this, Pat.
Oh, wow. Really?
It was a piece called "The Dad Canon." Circa now, and it was written by Joseph Bernstein. The subhead, if I could just tell folks what it's about, our highly specific, clearly subjective taxonomy on what today's dads can't stop wearing, reading, and talking about. And as I scrolled through here, I saw a familiar name. I saw Patrick Daugherty had contributed to this list with a little snippet about fantasy football. So congratulations on that, Pat. And if you don't mind, I would like to read this. I know I just read it to you 6 times over the phone. You just kept saying, read it over.
I had no idea you were going to bring this up after I told you to bring it up. I'm just shocked and flattered.
Well, you called me at 4 a.m. demanding that I bring it up today. So here we go.
I was proud of it. What did it say?
Yeah. So the headline of your little piece is the league, but in real life, like the TV show, but in real life.
I didn't come up with that for the record.
Right. Fantasy football. It's all here, said Patrick Daugherty, a fantasy football writer for NBC and a father of 4. The illusion of control, vicarious athletic glory, low maintenance friendships, ritualized relaxation in the form of 12-hour Sundays on the couch, to say nothing of Monday and Thursday evenings. And that is all really, really well said. I mean, if I could just point to one thing you wrote, the vicarious athletic glory. I mean, that no truer thing has ever been written in the New York Times. And I'll go to my grave saying that.
I had various people telling me certain parts of it hit home. I think for me, it is the illusion of control, where I'm going to fix this team.
Yeah.
I'm going to fix this team. And that's more of a redraft phenomenon, but most of our listeners are redraft players. Lots of them, of course, played DFS. But in the redraft, you're always one move away from fixing the team. Like, this is the year. Travion Williams. This squad is gonna once I burn 32% of my fab budget on Travion Williams, where it's to the moon. Yeah. And the illusion of control is what really gets me with fantasy.
Well, look, it really is a desire for control, because for our whole childhoods, we grew up rooting for our local team. Let's just stick to football for now, since we theoretically are a football show. So, you stick to, you're rooting for your team. You think you know what's best for them, and you have very certain and specific ideas about who they should draft and who they should sign and which coach they should get. And they don't do that, right? And so you're just left as an observer rather than someone who's dictating the terms of how this team operates. And fantasy football has delivered that to us in the form of teams that we can control. So it is something I think that stems from the lack of control we have over our favorite teams.
No, it's true. Yeah, it really is a reaction to that. Like with John Mozeliak, he's an idiot. Guess what? I'm going to win this title in baseball this year. And tell you what really hit home for me in the article, and this is actually not a joke. Mm-hmm. When I read Father of 4, I had never seen that written out before, or I think even said out loud. I was like, wow, this guy sounds crazy. Why
would they have so many kids?
Why would they do that? And No, it was very, very cool to be in the old grade lady. And no, it was seriously like amazing. I was like, I really sweated it. Let's put it that way. Spent 24 hours trying to get my 50 words down to a science.
I do want to tell everyone that I am in no way jealous. Not at all.
Didn't you have an op-ed in the New York Times at one point?
I did.
Am I hallucinating that?
That was years ago.
So yeah, we both. Isn't it crazy? We are both part of the New York Times canon.
We're in the archives. We are
in the archives of the old gray lady.
If I can mention one more thing that's in the piece about dads, it's opinions on T-shirts, and it basically goes through all the various T-shirts that you can buy: crew neck or wide neck or ribbed neck or V-neck, untucked or tucked, straight hem or curved, graphic or no graphic. And these are actually things that you end up having to consider with a lot of attention as you get older, and suddenly you're not as svelte as you once were. And so T-shirts matter a lot.
This is not a joke. When I'm on social media, like I think at least 50 to 60% of my targeted ads are, this T-shirt will make you look not like a dad.
Yeah.
And like that's like half of these companies spend $10,000 a week advertising just to me, trying to get me to buy like true classic T-shirts and won't look fat. And that's it. That they used to have like real like clever wording and stuff. And now it's just what it says, won't look fat.
Yeah,
wow.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Tell me a little more than that.
I also do appreciate that those companies use guys who are 6'2", 180 pounds.
I know. Always, I'm like, wow. Even the guys in the ads who are supposed to look out of shape are on HGH for some reason.
Well, I don't even know if they're supposed to look out of shape. But they put the shirt on and they look down like, oh, hey, look, I look amazing. Yeah. Who would have thought? I go to the gym twice a day. I have a rippling 8-pack, and this T-shirt looks good on me for some reason.
So check out the Dad Canon at the New York Times by Mr. Joseph Bernstein. It was a real pleasure to contribute. It was a better way than you spent your weekend, by the way, debating RFK Jr. and Zero RB. We're not going to get into that.
I had apparently the company.
You would have been fired if you didn't. You did well, though. You acquitted yourself well. Zero RB is still the lay of the land. And that's because, Denny, of situations like Joe Mixon in Cincinnati, where all offseason, for a while, I think we kind of took it for granted that Joe Mixon was going to get cut for a variety of reasons, off the field issues, efficiency just crashing in 2022, very expensive considering his recent production. But then the Bengals kind of gave him a series of like votes of confidence. Coach Zach Taylor said they were moving forward with him, I think was the exact quote, something like that. I was like, wow, okay, they're not cutting Joe Mixon. And they certainly passed the part of the offseason where it would have made the most sense to cut Joe Mixon. But just today on Monday, the Athletics' Joe Daner reported that the end game for Joe Mixon, quote, will be determined by whether he is willing to realign his $12.8 million salary cap hit, aka take a massive pay cut, to the current state of the running back market. And this does make a lot of sense to me. I mean, I was shocked that he survived so long on the roster, that there hadn't really been any even real rumors about his roster spot being in danger. We were kind of just starting to move forward, thinking that the Bengals had decided to keep Joe Mixon and kick this can down the road. And the end game could still be Joe Mixon remaining on the Bengals 53-man roster once week 1 comes around. But I'm not surprised now to see this talk kind of like finally coming out into the open and Joe Mixon's roster spot being like put officially in danger. And this is a really, really long preamble to just ask you, like, what do you think about this?
Right. Well, I mean, it opens up a lot of, it opens up avenues for a lot of backs to assert themselves here. I know actually this will be the second Travion Williams comment or mention of
that is stunning
of the podcast, and probably the 8th of our show this offseason. But the coaching staff, including Zach Taylor, has really talked up Travion Williams, who has basically not been used at all.
Like the entirety of his rookie contract, he's been in the league for a while.
But and maybe that does have something to do with Joe Mixon probably heading out. We have Chris Evans, we have Chase Brown, the highly productive rookie out of the University of Illinois. So, I think any of those guys could emerge as the primary back if Mixon does head out. Now, I do want to mention that the Bengals last year were the third highest pass rate over expected in the league. So they're not exactly establishing it at any point.
Joe Mixon was a big part of that too. Caught 60 balls.
Yes, right. So there will be value in the PPR scam category as well for these running backs. But I mean, right now, it might be good to take shots on some of these guys in best ball drafts. And I know fantasy football managers tend to shy away from backfields like this. I don't even want to mess with it. Who knows? Well, that's good. Like that's kind of where an edge can be. If you look into it strongly enough, if you take enough shots on these guys, and if you get it right, man, I mean, you could get insane value out of one of these guys here.
I have a hard time believing it's going to be Travion Williams, who played out an entire rookie contract and touched the ball 55 times in 4 years. And that was because he was behind Joe Mixon. That was because they had some IGP Ryan. They had a few other kind of like higher profile reserve backs cycle through the roster in those years. But as we kind of talk about with Alexander Madison, if you go through an entire rookie contract and never like command touches, that's never a good sign. And I know they're talking him up. They also let him reach the open market. He gauged his value. There was no value out there to be found for him. He returned to Cincinnati on a 1-year deal. I would be much more interested in rookie Chase Brown, who some people are truthing for different reasons. He's already 23, had major college workloads, so maybe a lot of tread off the tires. Only 5th-round draft capital, I believe, for Chase Brown. But I have a really hard time getting excited with Travion Williams, despite the Bengals coaching staff trying to make him a thing. And I'm drafting 0 RB. I am taking a lot of flyers on Chase Brown, with the knowledge that Joe Mixon could retain his roster spot. But I'm ignoring basically everything said on Travion Williams and focusing on Chase Brown.
I think that's probably a good process here. I think Chase Brown will be dismissed by kind of haughty analytics nerds like
Quote,
myself.
Smart Twitter.
Right. Well, he's just a guy. He didn't impress in college. He just got a huge workload. Well, hey. It might be time. To embrace. I actually have an article coming out about this very thing. You're
apparently giving up on analytics, I hear.
We are pivoting away from analytics. We are pivoting toward film, and not entirely. I don't want to freak anybody out, but yeah. So Chase Brown's boring. This is what you're saying? Chase Brown is not exciting at all, and that's okay. And he could definitely still be the lead back here and be really useful for your fantasy team, unless you just love analytics. You don't really like fantasy points. In that case, you don't draft Chase Brown.
There's a certain segment of the fantasy football populace where they hear 23-year-old rookie and they say me,
yeah.
Sorry,
I mean, or worse, they throw their laptop across the
sure. Or they projectile vomit.
Yeah, right.
A lot of different reactions. None of them are excitement. But Chase Brown, he caught 27 balls last year too for the University of Illinois, and this seems like a guy who has multiple avenues to force his way onto the field. So even if Travion Williams does become like an important part of a post-Joe Mixon committee, if such a committee even exists, it seems like there are a lot of avenues for Chase Brown to force his way on the field. I guess I can't overlook the fact that Travion Williams, this coaching staff did like him enough to at least re-sign him when they could have put a different stamp on the backfield.
Yes.
But do you think Joe Mixon will be on the team?
No.
I don't think so either. It seems like a Leonard Fournette with the Jaguars type situation, or running back is a position where a lot of high dollar players seem to get cut in training camp. Like Leonard Fournette, can't think of any other examples, but I know it is something. I mean, Dalvin Cook, as we saw, wasn't camp, but they waited until June to release him. And a lot of times there are kind of like arcane salary cap reasons for that. But I do just sort of feel it would just make too much sense for the Bengals to move on from Joe Mixon.
We have to operate as if Mixon is not going to be with the team. Some comments from this offseason from Bengals brass. Zach Taylor 2 months ago said Joe Mixon is, quote, on the team right now. I'm not kidding.
That wasn't parody. That was real.
No. Bengals executive vice president Katie Blackburn said the following. This is back in March. A quote, right now, he's on the team.
Wow, this is, if true, this could be huge.
And we are going to count on him until that wouldn't be the case. But yeah, he's the guy.
Wow.
Like,
Okay.
no, it's over. It's over for Mixon, and you got to draft as if he's not going to be on the team. And I'm with you. I'm on the Chase Brown bandwagon.
Yeah, just draft Joe Mixon. Yeah, do not draft Joe Mixon and proceed as if he's not on the team. Currently, the RB16. I was recently on with a controversial fellow that some of our audience probably loves, some of them do not like, Mr. Matt Kelly. Always a thought-provoking show. He said that Joe Mixon is a steal. So there's going to be some interesting narratives on that this offseason. I would be steering clear of Joe Mixon.
Well,
just because, yeah.
We have to remember that Joe Mixon will get 200 carries for the Cowboys this year.
He will. That's important to remember for Mr. Tony Pollard. Don't get too comfortable, Tony. And so Joe Mixon, we'll see. Stefon Diggs, Denny. What we did see on Stefon Diggs, was he in camp? Was he not in camp? Turns out he was in mini camp.
Yeah.
But the Boston Globe's Ben Volin reports his frustration with the Bills, quote, stems from his role in the offense and his voice in the play calling. I don't know if it was Ben Volin or someone else. Rumors that he was screaming at Josh Allen after the Bills were eliminated in the divisional round last year by who beat them? The Bengals. Yeah. And at first, I don't really know why he's mad. He had like the second best season of his entire career last year. Got a lot of targets. But it just seems like the enemy is speaking kindly and holding a knife, Denny, with Stefon Diggs, that kind of thing.
Right. I mean, yeah, he was yelling at Josh Allen. He stormed off the field right after the loss, and then skipped a lot of the offseason, all of the offseason stuff until he wasn't at mandatory minicamp, but also was. So that was hard to figure out. I don't really know what this means, what this kind of report means, because we have Stefon Diggs earning a 28% target share last season. Okay. Here, the guys who had a higher target share in their respective offenses, Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. That's it. Okay. Like, I don't know. Stefon Diggs saw fully one third of the Buffalo air yards last year. I don't really know how his role could expand here. I guess he wants to play. He wants to call plays now. I don't know. I've never heard of that part. But his role can't get bigger, is what I'm saying.
No, I know. This just seems like a receiver almost like having to manufacture his own drama for like motivation or something heading into the season, because not really sure how he expects to be used more. And the role is going to remain the same. I mean, I know they used a first-round pick on a pass catcher, but as we know, it's like a big slot Mike Gesicki type. It's not going to be really the kind of thing that's going to eat too heavily into Stefon Diggs's target share. And you got Khalil Shakir and Trent Sherfield duking it out for number 3 duties, and the league's most disappointing number 2 receiver in Gabe Davis. And I mean, maybe it's like must be like a key moments thing. He wants the ball every critical third down, which probably would be smart. The Bills had a lot of other poor ideas that did not work last year in offense, but very hard to tell what he's actually upset about.
I mean, he might be understanding that the Bills can't compete with the Bengals and the Chiefs and with their roster. And he's probably very preemptively frustrated for what's going to happen this year.
The Bills can compete, by the way. This is interesting. I posted a non-ironic poll on Twitter last week where I just asked, have the Bills peaked? And I think 80% of respondents said they had peaked, which is a little higher than I would have thought. I actually do agree with the sentiment, but I do think the talent base, like the baseline is still high enough for the Bills where they could get hot in the playoffs and still win a Super Bowl. I don't think they've totally missed their window. They have missed their peak. I don't think the window is all the way closed, but I think the Bills they're not going to be like a prohibitive favorite anymore, but there's still enough talent here to like go on a run. Any other cliche you can think of.
Yeah, I agree with that. I will say I saw another Twitter poll, and that's what we base our opinions on.
That's
analytics, honestly, where it was asking Bills fans, would you be satisfied if Josh Allen only won one Super Bowl in his career? And the answer was no. It was a tight poll, but the answer was no. And I'm thinking there's a pretty great chance that Josh Allen will not win a Super Bowl. So,
and also, your franchise has never won a Super Bowl. Maybe be happy with the greatest moment in franchise history if it ever happens.
With the way he plays, with the team.
Allen, he is basically like the next evolution of Cam Newton. This isn't going to be like 15 years under center for Josh Allen. It's just not. We already might be that the elbow didn't require surgery, which in theory is good news for Josh Allen, but that's the kind of thing that ended up being bad news. Like, oh, wow. Kind of wish he had gone under the knife because his arm strength just does not look the same. And
yeah, that's true.
That's very mixed news that he didn't have surgery to me.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a tough thing. Unless Joe Burrow and or Patrick Mahomes goes down, Josh Allen is not winning the Super Bowl. That's my thought on that.
Joe Burrow could have a smaller window than we think too, just because of his absolute addiction to taking sacks.
Well, he will not throw the ball away.
Every play he's ordered I'll take the Russell Wilson. And, or I'm either going to make the most spectacular throw you've ever seen or get sacked. And it's a little different than Russ's game, but similar. And it's just absolute devotion to getting crushed by two oncoming defensive linemen.
He loves it, and you have to respect that.
Patrick Mahomes, meanwhile, has never taken a hit. He's been in the NFL, 6 years? I've never once seen the man take a hit.
No, he just does his little dad shuffle to the sideline and somehow gets a first down.
Patrick Mahomes should have been in the dad canon. By the way, there was a Twitter poll too. Respondents who won the 0 RB debate between RFK Jr. and Denny Carter, and it's currently 81-19 for RFK. By the way,
oh man,
I know you didn't. I thought you had a more convincing case.
Well, that's because Rogan retweeted it.
I know. Yeah. So not to get political, but you are losing your debate very heavily to RFK Jr., Denny. It's very, very concerning situation for the company. Denny, Isiah Pacheco is someone I've been talking up as an RB2 steal all offseason. He's been barely getting drafted as an RB2 on Underdog. I think he's the RB25 right now. And maybe that's because some people were paying more attention to a detail that's very easy to gloss over, as I have mostly done, that he had hand surgery. He had shoulder labrum surgery, a major operation. He's still not healthy. The Athletics, I lost my note here. The Athletics' Nate Taylor reports that the Chiefs hope he is ready, quote, sometime midway through camp. A little concerning. People keep talking up rookie Deneric Price. Is that how you say Deneric?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You are going to apparently talk him up. And are we worried about Isiah Pacheco's health? And can we draft him with confidence? Or is this something where being told on June 19th someone might not be ready to midway through camp? That is a little alarming.
Yeah, I mean, I would say after seeing that report that I wouldn't be surprised if Pacheco is not a full go throughout training camp, and could still be ready for week 1, but we'll have to monitor that very closely. I mean, the only guys who would benefit would be CEH or this rookie out of Tulsa, Deneric Price. I left Jerick McKinnon out because I think McKinnon's role is sort of set in stone as the pass catching back who gets a lot of valuable looks and touches inside the 10-yard line. So we have to remember that for fantasy purposes. But I mean, if Pacheco, I guess, misses time or isn't ready, then a guy like Prince would make sense, just because Edwards-Helaire has been so deeply disappointing as both a rusher and pass catcher, just really just a guy. And I think the Chiefs have come to terms with the fact that they really messed up with that pick. They did not pick up his 5th year deal, his 5th year extension. What is it called?
5th year team option, didn't he?
Yeah, there you go. The option. They didn't do the option for the 5th year for CEH. So we know where they stand on him. This guy Prince is somewhat interesting. He blew away the combine. He has a crazy 9.58 relative athletic score. And
where was he drafted, Denny?
He was I don't even 5th round.
No, he was undrafted.
He was undrafted.
Wait, right? I don't know. First off, I called him Price and not Prince. Yeah, he is an undrafted free.
He was undrafted. Yes, I do say. And also it should be noted that 25%, a full quarter of his career rushing yards at Tulsa came against the University of South Florida, which has one of the worst defenses in the nation. So, he took advantage of a good matchup. You got to hand it to him for that.
You do have to hand it to him for that.
Also, let's keep that in mind. So I'm not over the moon for Prince. Honestly, the likelihood is Pacheco is fine for week 1. He gets his regular early down stuff. He is a good RB2.
Pacheco too, even though it's only 1 year of a track record, I think he's established at this point where he doesn't have anything to prove in training camp, especially with his violent rushing style, where he could be the guy who doesn't really see any live reps in camp, or especially the preseason. And it's just all about having him ready for his normal role in week 1, where he could like barely be out there during training camp. And it probably won't be worth reading into that much. And it just could be giving his shoulder, again, labrum is a very serious operation, giving his shoulder as much time as possible to heal up. And I do, that's where I fall on it, is that it's more about the Chiefs being cautious. And with Deneric Prince, who again, I'm sorry, I called Price, I think Prince and CEH kind of comes down to they're competing for one roster spot. And maybe the Chiefs will take 4 running backs. And it'll probably honestly be scored in favor of CEH. He's under contract this year. It's guaranteed money from his rookie deal. They might try to stash Prince on the practice squad. Could be risky. He could be someone who gets claimed off waivers if they cut him loose at final cuts. But I think it's CEH and Prince competing for one roster spot. And Prince is going to have to translate the offseason hype to training camp to really get on that 53-man roster. It could happen, but it seems like it could also just be a classic situation where we talk about a guy for months and Andy Reid's like, oh, yeah, Prince, who's that guy?
Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty good chance that he doesn't know who that is. Yeah.
No, yeah, probably not. So we'll see with Deneric Prince. Yeah, so talk about someone we hype up all offseason and then does absolutely nothing during the regular season. Zamir White of the Las Vegas Raiders, Denny. Friend of the show, Tashawn Reed, who came on to help preview the Raiders last summer, wrote last Thursday, though, he's making a lot of progress, displaying growth in mini camp, that they may call on him to, quote, balance out the workload a bit more in 2023. Tashawn Reed's a very good reporter, but the Raiders and Josh Jacobs are currently at loggerheads on his franchise tag. And do we think the Raiders may be talking up Zamir White? Is this more about Josh Jacobs and like trying to like scare him, I don't know, into signing and reporting on time than it is Zamir White actually being ready for any more work?
It probably is that. Also, it's that Josh Jacobs is simply not there at mandatory minicamp, and Zamir White is. And so Zamir White gets a lot of touches and I guess plays the role of the lead back in the Vegas offense. And so beat writers see that, they write about it, the team see it, the coaches see it, they talk about it. So I think that's kind of the natural way these things go when the clear lead back is not there for whatever reason, injury or contract or otherwise. I'm trying not to overthink this too much. Josh Jacobs will be back. He will play. There's no reason to think he will not see a massive workload again this year. And
two, I mean, it could be quite possible Zamir White is looking a lot better and has displayed a lot of progress and is just more ready to like be part of a committee. But that won't matter if Josh Jacobs is there because he is the every down back. He has become the most important player to the Raiders offense, maybe even more important than Davante Adams. Not saying he's better than Davante Adams or anything like that, but where he's like the one idea they have that works. And like Jimmy G might not even be able to get the ball to Davante Adams. And Josh Jacobs is so important to this operation for the Raiders. After they did spend a lot of time trying to make him a committee back. They drafted Zamir White. They signed Brandon Bolden. They were like leaking reports all last offseason. It's going to be a committee this year, guys. And Josh Jacobs was just like, no, it will not be a committee. And I will be amazing.
That's right. That's how it went. And so Zamir White is purely a contingency option for fantasy. You add him, you stash him to the bottom of your bench, and you probably have the Raiders' primary running back if Josh Jacobs misses time this year. That's what it'll come down to for Zamir White. You're on mute. You are on the mute.
So, and then Denny, the joke that was so good I had to unmute to say it. Then you cut Zamir White in week 2.
Don't do it.
You spend 4 months thinking about it, and then he gets one touch in week 1, a 0-yard catch. And you're like, all right, on to the next one.
You gotta just stick it out sometimes, folks.
Nope, not with Zamir White. And you will, though, hopefully stick it out with the show. When we return right after this, download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It is available in your app store today. And don't forget, every season is draft season. Get your Rotoworld Draft Guide bundle today and dominate your football, baseball, and basketball drafts. It's packed with profiles, rankings, and projections. Order today and get all 3 Rotoworld Draft Guides for the price of 2. Plus, use promo code BARRY to save an extra 20% off at checkout. That is promo code BERRY to save an extra 20% off at checkout. Denny, Craig, we're back.
How's baseball going for you, by the way?
But we're just real quick. I'll answer that. But RFK, it's now 83-17. They think we won the 0 RB debate.
I need my people to get in there. Come on.
Come on, get in there and save Denny. Baseball, Denny. I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fans, and they're 29-43. If you want to know how baseball's going.
I see your tweets, and they are becoming more existential every day.
And I mean, you want to talk about this is like the biggest scandal in St. Louis in years. And we've had lots of real scandals, but the baseball team being 14 games under 500, the entire region is melting down. We do not know what to do.
Is everybody in a bad mood? Like if you go to 7-Eleven, are people just down?
Not to get too personal, take two people too far behind the curtain, but I was stabbed unprovoked at a 7-Eleven. No, it wasn't a robbery. It was just about the Cardinals had just lost, and I was stabbed. And
I'm sorry.
He said he was taking out some aggression. I didn't press charges because he was just taking out some aggression.
How can you blame him?
Mike Yastrzemski had homered in the 9th inning against the Cardinals, and it was just a very dark day.
Yeah, hey, that's it happened. It's part of being a baseball fan.
It is. This is part of being a sports fan.
It's getting stabbed once in a while.
Yeah, this is part of being a sports. It was a very dull knife. It was fine.
Barely broke the skin.
Yeah. So that might be too dark for this show, but
yeah, sorry.
Sky Moore, Denny. We're gonna do this again, apparently. Chiefs coach Andy Reid said Sky's, quote, taking a good jump. And Sky, he did have some of his most important plays very late in the season, scoring a touchdown in the Super Bowl. But the way I viewed Sky Moore, I mean, I know Juju Smith-Schuster is gone. There's targets for the taking. I kind of viewed the second-round pick of Rashee Rice from SMU as like a do-over on Sky Moore. And SMU is a bigger school than Western Michigan. More of a football school. Western Michigan, the directional Michigan schools are all surprisingly good at football. But I don't know. I felt like Rashee Rice, maybe I'm just like connecting a dot that's not there. I felt like that was them trying to do Sky Moore over. And like trying to get lucky basically with like a smaller school receiver, like someone who maybe would have had first-round hype if they had played at a Power 5 school, and that they're already kind of admitting the mistake on Sky Moore. Or is that way too simplistic of a view? And it's just a really talented receiver who had everything go wrong his rookie year. It could be a great post-type sleeper in an offense where Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback.
No, I'm not doing this. No, I'm not even going to entertain the idea that Sky Moore could be a thing for fantasy. Like, yeah, okay, he could get more run. I mean, I'm looking at his routes, his pass routes from last year, and man, that is some bleak stuff. Like, he's he ran over 11 pass routes in 4 games last year. Okay, so just simply not used at all. Our good friend, former colleague John Daigle, shared with me the other day when I went on a show that he believes Sky Moore could be a healthy scratch on game days. Because
come on, John.
Because he won't be part of the special teams, and he will not be high enough on the depth chart for the receivers to get on the field. And I said, hey, you know what? I don't think that's such a hot take. I think that is a very real possibility.
Well, he did not prove his special teams value as a rookie. No arguments there. Really, really, I wish I loved anything as much as Sky Moore loves back-breaking fumbles inside his own 20-yard line.
He loves them.
That kind of situation. It's just such a weird for an elite offense, has there ever been a receiver core that has this many variables? Like the Chiefs are banking on Kadarius Toney's hamstring staying healthy for more than 3 games. They're banking on Sky Moore, who just objectively terrible rookie year, taking a step forward. They're banking on another second-round rookie from a non-Power 5 school becoming an important part of their offense. I'm assuming you don't use a second-round pick on a receiver like Rashee Rice unless you expect him, to play legitimate snaps. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is still there, and it's like so many variables. And it's like, who can we even? I know the answer, I guess, is Toney behind Travis Kelce. It's like, who can we even feel good taking flyers on in this offense? And normal 12-team redraft, not talking dynasty. I did take Rashee Rice over Marvin Mims, and we'll see if I live to rue the day.
I don't know. I don't know if you'll rue completely the day, but there could be some rueing. I think
there could be some ruining.
Just back to Sky Moore for a second. If you really want to get granular here, and that's what we do on the show, and I love to cherry pick some stats. So I'm gonna play the part of an analytics dork who loves Sky Moore. Okay, and really, I'm just a tough guy who does not like Sky Moore.
You're role playing as an analytics dork.
Yeah, let me just role play for a second and just tell you this. When he actually saw some slot action last year in weeks 11 and 12, he got some opportunity. He saw 6 targets in each of those weeks. He caught five balls for 99 yards total. I'm sorry, he caught 10 of those passes for 99 yards total as a slot player. Now, when he was deployed as a boundary receiver is when he was completely ignored as a pass catcher. So, if there's some indication that he will become, I don't know, the primary slot guy for the Chiefs, then we may be onto something there.
And Juju leaving behind plenty of slot reps, presumably. True. So Juju apparently maybe an easy upgrade after we're getting reports now that he was playing on a bum knee all year for the Chiefs, which would have been nice to know.
Yeah, there are things that come out in the offseason where you're like, man, I would love to have known that at Halloween last year.
Yes, I know. Like, oh, wow. So, yeah, he couldn't walk all year until he put a shot in his knee 30 minutes before the game. Yeah. That would have been nice. And
yeah, we call that managing, Pat.
We do. By the way, we probably have some listeners thinking about the Chiefs receiver core just muttering to themselves, it was always second-year undrafted free agent Justin Ross. And we can't forget Justin Ross in these Chiefs receiver conversations, he's one of the analytics and fantasy nerd champions. So we'll see what happens with Justin Ross. And we'll see what happens with Chiefs receiver core. There are targets for the taking.
Yeah, Justin Ross has gotten some decent reports back in June 1st.
So back in June, Denny, the current month is June.
I'm sorry, it feels like July.
It does, actually.
Andy Reid said Justin Ross has the trust of Patrick Mahomes, things of that nature. So I think that he's a dark horse here in the conversation about which Kansas City receiver will not drive us completely insane.
Yeah, Justin Ross, kidding aside, is definitely someone to keep an eye on. Targets for the taking in Kansas City. There are touches for the taking in Dallas, where the backfield, at least as of now, is without Ezekiel Elliott. It still seems like the Cowboys are having problems coming to terms with this. And Jerry Jones calls up a reporter like every other day, like, yeah, we might re-sign Zeke. I miss him so much. so much. And the reporter's like, Jerry, can I call you back? I'm at my son's baseball game. And Jerry just starts silently sobbing into the phone. And
yes, you can call me back.
The reporter puts him on speakerphone. It's like, Jerry Jones is just openly weeping on my phone. And then he misses his son get a hit as Jerry Jones cries over not having Zeke.
And in the background of Jerry Jones crying, you hear YouTube highlight videos of Ezekiel Elliott in 2017.
Exactly. So no Zeke right now. There is Tony Pollard. Supposedly Malik Davis is the number 2 in the depth chart. Who knows how real this is really going to be. Seems like a classic situation where a veteran is going to be brought in, because we talked about once you get typecast as a third down back or just a change of pace back like Tony Pollard, it's hard to shake that. We have a hard time believing Tony Pollard truly going to graduate to full 1A, 250, 300 touch status, Denny. It is within the realm of possibility. Malik Davis. So yeah, Malik Davis, the whole impetus for this was the Athletics' John Machota reporting that Malik Davis is indeed supposedly the primary backup. Just how much do we believe this? And what do you want to share with the people about the Cowboys backfield?
Well, I mean, I know there are Deuce Vaughn truthers who would reject this on its face and say, no, our tiny little running back, highly productive running back out of Kansas State, he's going to be the one. He's going to, in fact, be so good that the team will have no choice but to play him alongside Tony Pollard and whatnot. But early reports suggest no, that's not going to happen.
Can I just real quick? I just think Deuce Vaughn, the way I view Deuce Vaughn, it's like a direct backup to Tony Pollard, and he's when the pace has already been changed, it needs to be changed even more than Deuce Vaughn will change the pace. And I view him as like a direct backup to Tony Pollard.
2 things about Tony Pollard. One, he had a horrific leg break to end the season last year. I'm not making light of it. I mean, he's like kind of questionable for training camp, maybe. So
I think he's going to be good. It was, again, like Isiah Pacheco, though, where this was lower body, too. It was a major injury that has kind of been memory hold. And
so,
you're right. The plan is for him to be ready for the start of camp. So it's not guaranteed.
No, a plan is good. It's good if they have one.
We love our plans.
But I mean, he didn't break his leg in like September. He broke his leg in January. Okay, like that's significant, I think, and we should keep that in mind. Also, just last year, if you want to know how the Cowboys are going to operate or how they see Tony Pollard. Last year, Pollard accounted for 36% of the team's rushing attempts. Ezekiel Elliott had 43% of the attempts. Malik Davis was third with a little over 7% of those rushing attempts. Only 5 teams had a lower pass rate over expected than Dallas last year. Mike McCarthy has spent the past 3-4 months talking incessantly about.
Well, that was too high.
Yeah, about we need to establish the run. We need to run the damn ball, this and that. So I think there are going to be a lot of rushing attempts to go around in this Cowboys offense, and that makes whoever is the RB2 that makes them interesting. Pollard is going to go at a premium no matter what happens with the leg thing. Okay, like you're going to have to spend a first rounder on him likely in 12-team leagues. Right, he's going at the end of the first.
He is. Maybe occasionally he'll sneak into the second round, but he's been on that borderline all summer.
But I will be extremely interested in whoever takes on this RB2 role in Dallas.
Yeah, no, it's for real. Like apparently he's currently going as the 22nd overall player, Tony Pollard. So we were a little wrong on our ADP.
Oh, second. Okay, second.
But if he comes up to camp healthy and it's all systems go for Tony Pollard, then it's going to get into the first round. There's just no doubt about it. And it is weird with the leg break because the leg is probably healed at this point. It's the kind of thing where you have to do so much strength training to get back up to speed and get your balance back and that kind of thing, where it is just no joke, where even if he's technically healed, there's just many, many steps to that recovery for Tony Pollard. And they don't bring anyone in. I mean, Malik Davis has to be drafted across the board. I mean, even maybe in 10-team leagues, you would have to take a flyer on Malik Davis. I mean, he has been on the roster for several years. They do trust him. He probably showed just enough last year where they could maybe spin it forward in their minds that he's an acceptable number 2 back, which he probably isn't, to be honest. They probably do need to do better in that spot.
It's a pretty low bar. Pretty low bar.
It is.
For a second, a guy who's clearly behind the number 1. I have lingering doubts about how the team views Tony Pollard. I just see a scenario very clearly in my mind's eye where it's week 3 and Pollard drafters are eating the pillows on their couch because their guy is just simply not on the field as much as they thought he would be.
No, it is. I'm already traumatized by it.
Yeah, you're pre-tilting over it. I am
pre-tilting over it. So we'll see. Tony Pollard is one of the summer's most fascinating players. He's also on the cover of our magazine. So
let's go Pollard.
Tony time. Tony time. Well, we're all rooting for you, Tony. We actually are. Yeah. To end the show, we thought we'd talk about a few ADPs that have been changing. And when we talk about ADP, it's always based on underdog. Very sharp drafting group. Also, just those are the people drafting right now. Some mock drafts are finally getting going for people practicing redraft. I guess that's something that happens. But people drafting like crazy over at underdog. One of the biggest movers since June 1st in ADP, Denny, is Jerome Ford. Arrow to screaming upward, who we'd already had reports throughout the offseason that he was going to be the number 2 back to Nick Chubb, which is a pretty crazy amount of resources the Browns had invested in that backfield. Relatively speaking, for the running back position, 2 really highly paid guys in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And it seemed like maybe they would just think bigger behind Nick Chubb, who they've never have wanted to entrust with more snaps on third down, but it's only Jerome Ford, not much of a track record. They apparently love him. The Cleveland Plain Dealers, Mary Kay Cabot, who's also been on the show, believes the Browns will add another back before the season, but not a big name like Dalvin Cook or Ezekiel Elliott. So his ADP has been up this report just came out today. Does this throw cold water on Jerome Ford and his apparently surging ADP?
I mean, I like Ford. I like taking him in, maybe not in best ball drafts, but I will enjoy taking him in redraft leagues because he seems to have a pretty secure role as a guy who would benefit from a Nick Chubb absence. Now, Nick Chubb is not one to struggle with injuries. He's a very durable guy. I should say, just for legal purposes, the best pure rusher in the game, Nick Chubb. But I'm looking back at some recent reports on Jerome Ford. The Athletic's Zach Jackson back in mid-May wrote that Ford is, quote, he's going to take whatever action Chubb does not take in the Cleveland backfield. So could be kind of a Kareem Hunt type deal. I do think that the Browns shifting offense toward a more balanced or even pass first model could change that Kareem Hunt role and could change the Nick Chubb role, traditional, like what we've thought of it under Kevin Stefanski. That could change it as well. But again, I mean, just like Malik Davis, if he truly is that RB2 guy, Ford becomes like a must stash for people who are not like hammering running back early on in drafts.
I do think it's interesting that we're getting reports now that they might add another back, and that the steam for Jerome Ford, the optimism from the Browns coaching staff might have been a little like hopium. And because this is a guy who was a 5th-round pick last year, and he did not touch the ball on offense. And I know they had Nick Chubb, I know they had Kareem Hunt, but Kareem Hunt was totally gassed, totally gone by the second half of the season, and they still couldn't get this supposedly uber talented rookie a single touch on offense. That is very interesting. And if you really like a guy, again, they forced their way on the field in some capacity, and he did not do that as a rookie.
Nope.
And now it is very interesting. It's mid-June, we're a month away from camp, and they go, oh yeah, they actually might sign Ryan.
Yeah, I'm starting to come around on the idea that Nick Chubb might be used in ways that we're not used to seeing him used. And if that happens, wow, he is going to have quite a ceiling for the
He's
first
like Derrick Henry, right? I don't understand why they haven't done it. Like, why would you just not try to get Nick Chubb 2 or 3 receptions per game? Like, you don't have to make him like Austin Eckler, but get him 2 receptions per game.
He's such a good runner that they never want him catching passes.
No, never, ever.
How it goes.
We'll see what happens to Jerome Ford, who right now, I mean, he's a classic. If they don't sign another back, he's going to be someone who's really exciting to have on your bench for a variety of reasons, because they have always featured 2 backs. And Nick Chubb just handles so many touches. He has missed a few games. He's never had a big injury, but like pretty good odds that Nick Chubb, anyone who touches the ball that much, will miss at least a game or 2 any given season. So Jerome Ford, very, very interesting ADP. Danny, Jalin Hyatt's ADP has been way down. And there were reports last week he was running with the 3rd-team offense. I mean, really not that surprising for someone who's just getting his feet wet in the NFL. Was essentially like a one-trick pony gadget player at Tennessee. He has a lot to learn, a lot to get up to speed, and like a much more sophisticated NFL offense. I mean, we're getting like pro Paris Campbell reports for some reason. This happens every offseason, no matter what. Are drafters right to be not enthusiastic about Jalin Hyatt's rookie odds and Brian Daboll's offense?
Yeah, the wide receivers coach for the Giants, unprompted, said, "I'm not concerned about Jalin Hyatt's limited route tree in college." I think, buddy, I think that means you're concerned. Yeah. Pretty sure you wouldn't have mentioned it if that were the case. But I think you can write off Hyatt as a redraft pick.
He's wide receiver 75. I don't really know why I was allowed to bring him up on the show. Probably shouldn't have.
Well, no, I think there are some sickos who would say, folks have rookie fever this time of year, and they might say, hey, I got to get this rookie. He's fast. He can sure run.
He made so many big plays. There could be some people, who think he's like going to be their diamond in the rough this year.
Yeah. I do have, a little bit of PTSD from ignoring Odell Beckham back when he was a Giants rookie and feeling the effects of that. But I think Darius Slayton is a really good, really solid, if not super exciting, but a solid pick at ADP. I think Paris Campbell, if he takes on that primary slot role. I know we talk ad nauseum about
Paris Campbell's not even going to make the team, but
stop.
He's not.
Paris Campbell is really good. It's just a matter of being on the field, and that's an issue he has every year. Look, I personally don't want Paris Campbell to get injured. I can't speak for you, but
no, I don't either. I was in on Paris Campbell last year for like the final time. It was going to count this time.
Well,
and then it didn't.
Okay, but you have to consider the circumstances. If Matt Ryan had played the whole season like he should have, Paris Campbell would have been quite fun for fantasy as a scam, as a PPR scam.
It is a 1 year, $3 million deal. That's a non-trivial amount of money. And the Athletics' Dan Dugan has reported it looks like he will be, quote, a featured piece of the offense. So Paris Campbell is at least worthy of a late-round flyer yet again, apparently. But you got to really, really keep those expectations tempered. Final guy, just someone we hadn't really talked about on the show at all this offseason, even though he's pretty intriguing, part of a changing offense. Gerald Everett, who we're hoping the Chargers go more deeper down the field. There's been a guy who's had explosive big play ability out of the seam in the past. ADP's up. People are taking notice. What do we think about Gerald Everett heading into 2023?
I mean, he's very much overlooked at the moment, and I get why. Like, first of all, every time the Chargers are on national TV, Gerald Everett makes at least one just completely boneheaded play, and it something really
that goes beyond a drop.
Like
something he bats up into the air in the end zone.
Right. Or just puts the ball out, to his side while he's running.
He's carrying it like a loaf of bread. I don't know.
Anyway, yes. He was 8th in tight end targets last year and 7th in tight end pass routes, despite missing 2 full games and part of another one. So that probably would have been top 5 in both those categories with a full season. So he's kind of boring. I get that. I totally understand. But as far as like late round tight ends go, you need guys who are out there running all the routes, and that's probably what you'll have because you have Donald Parham and Trey McKitty behind him. I don't see either of those guys usurping Everett, so it could be just a nice boring late round pick if you fade the Andrews and Kelce's and whatnot.
And it's an offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore who seemed to like to pick a featured tight end during his time in Dallas. And he didn't seem to be into like tight end rotations. And Dalton Schultz, questionable talent. I mean, he's a good player, but you can debate like how good he actually is. And Kellen Moore always stayed committed to him. And those other guys in Los Angeles, like you said, don't have a viable claim to number 1 status. It seems like there's a pretty easy case to make that Gerald Everett is going to remain on the field a ton. That despite the mistakes, he does have big playability. And we're just hoping it's a better designed, more explosive offense this year. And as frustrating as it is, no one wants to do it. You cannot sleep on Gerald Everett this offseason.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz, it did not excite anybody when they drafted him last summer. But he was pretty damn good for fantasy. I think Everett could be the same thing.
Yeah, the Blake Jarwin drafters never recovered. They never did.
I don't want to talk about it.
Never, ever recovered. We will recover from the show because it's over. We're going to go rest our voices. For Thursday, when we're going to be back with Kyle Dvorchak, we're going to be doing another best ball draft. Speaking of underdog and best ball, we will be drafting. I drafted the first time. The plan is for either you or Kyle, I believe, to draft this time. We don't know who yet. It's going to get the honor.
Give me the honor.
You want that smoke?
I would enjoy that smoke. Yes,
he would enjoy that smoke. So there's going to be. Denny would always enjoy that smoke. Sorry, that might be too opaque of a joke.
Family podcast.
Yeah, family podcasts. So for Denny Carter, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Keep it locked on the site. There will still be news this week. We'll be back on Thursday with Mr. Kyle Dvorchak.